Good afternoon, everybody. This is Chris Frew with BioBuzz. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of What's the Buzz, our podcast that we get to talk to ecosystem builders and industry leaders about what they're doing to really support their communities and grow not only the biotech industry, but advance the science. So today on episode number 58, I'm excited to welcome Eamon Evans, who is sales director for Northeast and automation at Agilent. Agilent. Sorry, at Agilent.
Yeah, you got it.
Welcome, Eamon. Thanks for joining.
Yeah, Chris, appreciate being here. Thank you so much.
Yeah, well, I'm looking forward to diving in today. There's a lot we get to cover with you, and you're really building a really unique community around, analytical innovation. And we had an event earlier this year about that, and I'm so excited about it because it seems to be one of those kind of critical areas that's unleashing a lot of opportunity for companies
Yeah,
these days.
absolutely. Yeah, the analytical world is very vast. It covers a lot of pieces of equipment, different application spaces. So I've been in it for most of my career, and I'm really happy to discuss some of the items we have on the horizon here at Agilent.
Well, Agilent Technologies has been
Mhm.
a leader in this space for a long time. I've known you. I've been in the industry 22 years,
Mhm.
and I've known you all and many of the work you do. And I'm thrilled that you're really investing in community and joining
Yep.
me today to talk a little bit about what you're doing in Philly. So before we jump in, Eamon,
Mhm.
I want to thank our annual sponsor for What's the Buzz, which is Heffron and Company. We talk to ecosystem builders on this podcast, and Heffron and Company is the ecosystem builder, the physical ecosystem builder. They're
Mhm.
one of the leading mechanical and engineering contracting firms that specialize in life sciences. So if you anywhere you drive in the Mid-Atlantic, there's a good chance that they were behind the facilities and the building and the mechanical engineering that went into making that facility successful and ensuring that good high quality drugs are being made, manufactured, or researched. So the team there at Heffron is absolutely incredible. They support the community, they support the workforce. So a special thank you to Colin and the whole Heffron team for really building the ecosystem and giving everybody the facilities they need to make medicines better. Again,
Great.
great partner, and they're our national annual partner for this. So let's dig in. So today's episode, we're talking about automation, mass spec, and inside the modern QC lab. But we're kind of also talking about Philadelphia and to a
Yep.
degree. So, Eamon, could you tell us a little bit about? So it was just announced last week that you all are bringing a pretty awesome event to Philadelphia
Yeah.
this September, a BioPharma Analytical Innovation Summit. I think your first
Yep.
ever that you're launching here in Philly. Could you tell us a little bit about that event and why you chose Philadelphia?
Sure, sure. So throughout the year, Agilent has a handful of big conferences that we attend to launch new products, show our products and workflows to customers, and a big one being ASMS. And that took place in San Diego this past June, where we released new mass spectrometers, new workflows. And not everybody from the East Coast can get to California to see what all the products and workflows we're launching. So we've decided to bring essentially what we've done at ASMS, scale it down a bit, focus more on our biopharmaceutical workflows. And Philly's a great spot, right? It's a very dense population of business, academics, government, folks who use the equipment. So we're excited to be able to showcase what we have. We have some extremely smart people that are going to be there that can work with customers, show customers our products, how they work, how we generate data. And I couldn't think of a better spot than Philadelphia, Chris.
Well, I agree with you there,
Yeah.
but I'm a little biased too. So tell me, so who should be in the room? You mentioned some of your customers, but when you think about
Yeah.
the people, whether the departments or the jobs they have, who are the type of people that you think should be in the room for the program like this?
Yeah. So anybody in the biopharmaceutical world, right? Now, there's going to be specific tracks around peptides, oligonucleotides, proteins. So I mean, anybody who's really working with those specific molecules would benefit from being there. But let's face it, this equipment touches many different areas, many different applications. So if you are, an academic institution, or if you're just trying to learn a little bit more about mass spectrometry and HPLC, you will find value being at the symposium. So you don't necessarily 100% have to work for a biopharmaceutical company. Like I said, I think folks will get value out of sitting in, listening, talking to our experts, seeing the live demonstrations. And if you have any type of work in the analytical world, please come on out, talk to us. We'll be happy to see you and show you what we got.
Well, that's exciting. And it's this September, so I'm sure,
Mhm.
it's going to be a packed house given, the community that is there in Philadelphia. So let's dive into that a little bit. So,
Yeah.
let's explore why Philadelphia. I mean, you cover the Northeast, right?
Yep. Yep.
And so as you think about your, and I'm sure you see what's happening across North America, but what makes Philly distinct, especially as kind of like an analytical community?
Yeah, I could answer that question in many different ways, but we'll start with I would like to first say that Philadelphia is a great city, with amazing energy. I was lucky enough to complete my undergrad at Temple University, and I started my career just outside of the city in Delaware County. I lived downtown for about 5 years after graduation and really enjoyed the experience of big city life. And after working in a laboratory setting using Agilent instrumentation, I was able to land a job with the company where I made the commute down I-95 south to our facility in Wilmington, Delaware for about a year and a half. And it was really a great way to spend my early to mid 20s. So, from a personal standpoint, and I had to throw this out there, I love Philly. All right. So, I wanted to get that out of the way. But in terms of, what we're talking about, Greater Philadelphia is unique because it's not just a large life sciences hub. It's a very connected one within a relatively small geographic area. You have major pharmaceutical companies like Johnson and Johnson, Merck, GlaxoSmithKline. You have emerging biotech firms and an array of CDMOs. And I also think one of the greatest strengths is the concentration of top-notch academic institutions that have amazing science programs. So I mentioned my alma mater of Temple University earlier, which was just the tip of the iceberg. UPenn is one of the best schools in the country, which produces top talent along with LaSalle, Drexel, St. Joe's, Villanova, and then the University of Delaware, which is less than an hour from downtown and relatively close to our Agilent facility in Wilmington. I work with folks who graduated from all these schools, and I see the diplomas on office walls when visiting our customers in the area. I would go ahead and say that the education options in Philadelphia rivals that of, we'll say, Boston, Cambridge, and New York City metropolitan areas, but the density is certainly impressive. But what really stands out, is the level of collaboration. People move between organizations, share ideas, and often face similar challenges. So, that really creates an environment where innovation can spread very quickly. So it's a great city and it's a great spot to have businesses like this.
Yeah, that's great. And the collaboration, I want to
Hmm.
completely echo that. I mean, there's so much collaboration that we see across, and then when we say Philly too, we really talk about Greater Philadelphia.
Hmm.
And so the really, to me, the community, I mean, it's all the way out Doylestown and Allentown, and it's
Yep.
all the way down in Delaware, right? So that community
Yep.
within an hour drive is there's a lot of engagement happening. And not only that, but you mentioned the academics, you mentioned kind of the density, but
Hmm.
that density is growing. I mean, Eli
Oh
Lilly's
yeah.
built a huge
Allentown. Yep.
operation. Johnson and Johnson's,
Yep.
huge billion-dollar plant. GSK is, $800 million expansion. I mean, it just feels like there's this
There's good
recognition.
energy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
good
Oh,
energy.
yeah. Good energy. And Merck, same thing. Facility in Delaware that's going up. So it's a good spot to be. A lot of talent, right? A lot of people to choose from when hiring. And like I said, the education systems. It was one of the best decisions of my life that I got out of where I was from, moved to a bigger city for a while, got a great education at Temple, and hearing other folks that go to schools in the area, they do very well with finding jobs. And Agilent, like I said, we're hiring people out of all those institutions, and especially the University of Delaware being so close in Newark. So it's a spot to be, And there's other areas in the Northeast. Don't get me wrong. Boston, Cambridge has one of the biggest, install bases of companies, venture capital firms, right? But Philly's, I'd say it's pretty hot right now.
Yeah. So what do you see? I mean, with all that density, um, does that change? Do you see that the problems people that your customers are solving, are they different? I mean, there's developers, CDMOs, testing
Yeah.
labs. What do you see that people are asking you, customers are asking you for, based on that?
Sure. No, that's a very good question, and absolutely yes. Each group has different needs and problems they face every day. So if you look, let's start on the drug development front. They're focused on speed and getting therapies through development faster. They really require deep analytical insights from multiple angles. They have very challenging problems to solve that require high-end and complex analytical instrumentation. And when you're looking at CDMOs, there are some differences. There's absolutely some differences with QC labs, but a lot of some of the priorities are and needs are similar. But on the CDMO front, they're really looking to help their customers develop, validate, transfer, and run analytical methods to ensure product quality, regulatory compliance, a very big factor, and obviously successful manufacturing. But method transfer, consistency, and scaling is really the name of the game. And they also have a need for complex analytical equipment. It's still very much required to support their customer needs as they're obviously doing contract work. But when you get to the QC piece in the testing labs, this could be one of the last touch points before a drug can get out to the market. So speed is very important. Reproducibility, very important. Obviously, compliance is key. So it's called quality control for a reason. These laboratory practices are very important, and paying attention to detail is vital. So instrumentation needs are pretty consistent and not as complex as the needs of drug developers and CDMOs. They really want robust, reproducible performance. That's really what they're looking for. So, as a result, customers overall increasingly looking for workflows that are easy to standardize, scale, and transfer.
And let me ask you this as just kind of a follow-on to that.
Mhm.
Are you getting asked for things different today than you saw 2 years ago? Like, has there been a shift in kind of where analytics sits
Yeah.
or the challenges they're facing? I mean, is that something you can unpack a little bit?
Oh yeah, and I've been doing this for close to 18 years, most of my career, and I have seen the gradual change over the years. Even 2 years ago, things have changed to today. So, um, most conversations I would say 2 to 3 years ago focused on performance, productivity gains, and that's why I think we saw a lot of these smart features hitting the equipment. And those topics are still important, but today we're hearing much more about automation, data integrity, digital workflows, uh, AI. Obviously, it's everywhere. How AI can be implemented in the lab, and I think we're entering this era of mass spectrometry in routine QC environments, which was especially high resolution mass spectrometry was really not something you saw years back. But I would say 9 out of 10 laboratories I walk in, automation is top of mind. So, with that being said, there's also greater interest in reducing manual steps, simplifying compliance, and finding ways to gain deeper product insights without the added complexity. So, teams are looking for solutions that help them do more with the resources they already have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you brought up automation, Eamon.
Mhm.
When a lab um, automates, these processes, like what are
Yeah.
the biggest things you actually see change?
So there's a lot of things that can change, and I think one of the most important items and the biggest improvement you see is reproducibility of your work, right? So when you automate repetitive preparation steps, every sample is treated the same way every time. And unless there's an error with the device you're using, you won't see the variability that you would see from multiple different people performing the same task. And another important factor that you don't often hear about is some of these manual tools used in sample preparation. They can be very hard on the wrist, hands, elbows, lower back, right? So you can absolutely save your scientists some long-term physical pain using automated technologies. But of course, throughput often improves as well. But most customers tell us actually that the real value comes from having greater confidence in their data.
Mhm.
So when results are more consistent, teams spend less time troubleshooting what went wrong and more time focusing on what's important. So there's a variety of things. I think the big key is obviously the reproducibility, wasted time and effort repeating things that may have gone haywire. And you only have the analysts need to save their hands and wrists. I've walked into laboratories where people were doing manual pipetting and they had a wrist brace on because it caused so much pain over time.
Mhm.
So there's a lot of things automation can really help with in the laboratory setting.
Yeah. And when you're talking to customers, where do you think automation makes sense? Like what
Mhm.
stage does it really make sense for a company?
Yeah, I think it delivers probably the most value when labs are performing high volume repetitive tasks that require consistency, right? So that's where it can save time and money, reduce errors, and you want to free scientists up to focus on more valuable work. And I think this is extremely important to mention, as some people fear that automation replaces jobs. But I think if organizations think about automation correctly, you can deploy your teams elsewhere, right? You don't need to be doing these repetitive and mundane tasks. And then there's things you have to look out for. Sometimes labs want to overinvest and try to automate every single step before they've fully optimized the actual process itself. So, in my mind, automation works best when it's solving a clearly defined problem. It's important to start with the workflow challenge or bottleneck first, and then determine where automation makes the biggest impact. Because some tasks 100% require human intervention, and it may not be a good fit.
Mhm.
But I think the big takeaway here is all the smart people you have working in the laboratory. You could put those to other areas that provide much more value, and it's much more exciting work for them too.
Yeah, that's a great point. Like you're hiring people for their brain, let them use their brain. You don't
Yeah.
and let them use their brain and save their wrists. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. They could be doing more important things and more productive things. And these automation tools, I mean, you make an initial investment and they pay themselves off pretty quickly.
Yeah. Does method transfer? I mean, there's a lot of lost time that can happen, and
Mhm.
in there is that an area that you see automation able to solve as well?
Yeah, I think it's definitely automation can significantly reduce variability by ensuring the same process is followed every time at every location, and that can make method transfer much smoother. But it's not a substitute for everything, especially when it comes to proper documentation. Effective training, it doesn't stop that piece of it. It doesn't stop clear communication within the team. So I think like successful method transfer, still depends on people understanding the methodology and the intent behind it and how to execute it consistently. So I feel like the best outcomes happen when technology and strong process management work together.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, I mean, again, I'm just foreseeing a lot of these great conversations happening live and in person in just
Uh-huh.
a couple weeks. As we're bringing everybody together and later this September.
Yeah, it'll be
Um,
exciting.
Indeed. So one of the areas that you'll be diving into at the symposium is like mass spectrometry moving into QC, right?
Yeah.
That's like one of the topics that we talk about. So historically, like high resolution mass spec has lived in like specialty labs, and
Mhm.
um, what's been preventing it from moving into the QC world, and like how is that changing?
Yeah, I mean, mass spec obviously costly, complex, and it wasn't for the everyday bench chemist, right? So historically, all those factors have limited it from going into a QC setting. And high resolution mass spec, especially, often required very specialized expertise, complex data review, because these instruments produce massive amounts of information, and just workflows that really weren't designed for a routine QC setting. So what's changing now is that the technology is becoming more accessible. Instruments like our latest time of flight platforms bring powerful mass spectrometry capabilities together with streamlined software and guided workflows. Okay, so that allows QC labs to gain the benefits of accurate mass analysis in a way that fits regulated day-to-day operations without needing a team of high-level mass spec experts. So I do want to say, like, I don't think we're near the push a button and get the result that you need phase of mass spec. That really doesn't exist, because at the end of the day, the mass spec is a measurement tool, and you need to understand how it makes the measurement, right? But the guided software and workflows make it a little complex, or I'm sorry, less complex. And if we have the back end data analysis, data integrity tools, then we can have it fit in a QC setting, because that's obviously important piece is working within the regulatory guidelines.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, speaking of regulatory guidelines, so
Mhm.
I know you guys make a big distinction between workflows for research purpose and workforce
Oh
for
yeah.
regulated. Why is that distinction so important and like something that you all focus a lot on for your customers?
Oh yeah, yeah. That's a very good point. Researchers and QC analysts and departments have very different goals. Researchers want flexibility and freedom to explore data in new ways. QC needs, and this is by regulation, right? Consistency, traceability, and compliance. So, very different requirements and challenges, to say the least. So the software experience should reflect those different needs. In QC specifically, users require simple guided workflows that can minimize risk, right? You want to stay away from, a bad audit by the FDA. So purpose-built software matters, and it helps analysts focus on making decisions instead of navigating complexity. So yeah, you have to be careful depending on which area you work in. And Agilent and other vendors need to distinguish software tools that can accommodate both.
Yeah. So if you do have a QC lab that's kind of exploring standing up mass spec for the first time, like,
Yep.
what are the things that you want to make sure they're thinking about? They're not they're not underestimating.
Right. That's a good point. And, I've been through this a lot, not just with QC settings, but, customers in many markets in general. And I've seen that many teams focus heavily on just the instrument implementation and underestimate the importance of the entire workflow planning and data strategy and coordination. So, the landscape has absolutely changed over the years. I might be dating myself here a little bit, but I remember back in the early, 2010s, customers were very focused on what the instrument could do in terms of sensitivity, speed, dynamic range, whatever was listed on a spec sheet. Um, and I feel like the conversations just were strictly around specifications and performance versus what the end result would be. So today, customers are more concerned, and rightly so, about getting from point A to point B and everything that is involved in the process. So the instrument itself is only one piece of the puzzle. Success also depends on having the right methods, standardized processes, and software tools that support the operation. So, from what I've seen over the years, the labs that plan out the entire workflow from the start tend to have the smoothest adoption.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really good advice.
Mhm.
So some of the things that you all will be doing at this symposium this September is going to be showcasing some new solutions and new
Yep.
equipment that has rolled out over the past several months. Um, you have a new MAM solution
Yeah.
as part of it. Can you tell us about that a little bit? What's the problem in biopharma quality that this new solution is addressing?
Yeah. Yeah. So this was an ASMS release, our new 6230 time of flight mass spectrometer. Very robust tool that has, we have a pretty good install base of these instruments on previous models. And then a new MAM workflow. So biopharmaceutical companies need more efficient ways to monitor product quality and critical quality attributes throughout development and manufacturing. And traditional approaches often require multiple different assays to answer different questions. So a MAM, or multiple attribute method approach, helps consolidate testing by providing a detailed view of product attributes within a single workflow. So this can improve efficiency while also delivering deeper insight into product quality. And there has to be an ROI piece of this, right? Of implementing a MAM, versus multiple individual workflows on separate pieces of equipment. So definitely a neat solution to check out. And I hope some of the folks that are listening and in the Philadelphia area can attend the show in September and see this.
Yeah, that's exciting. So, and just diving into like what makes that type of solution different from like traditional approaches, like with peptide mapping and quality testing? Like, what is the big differentiator there?
Yeah, yeah. So, traditional peptide mapping is pretty complex and has often been used primarily as a characterization tool by scientists. Agilent's vision is to help make MAM more practical and accessible for routine regulated environments. So, that means emphasizing, workflow simplicity, consistency in software tools that support QC operations. That's the important piece. This can't exist unless we have the software piece of it that will suffice regulatory, items within the workflow. So, the goal is to help organizations move from generating complex data to generating actual actionable quality insights that can support everyday decision making. So, um, making something that is traditionally very complex somewhat simpler.
I think it's something we could all handle. We could all handle.
Yeah, I would love that in lots of areas of my
Yeah.
life, Chris, to be honest. That would be
That's
great.
great. Well, this summit sounds like it's going to be exciting, and I love that it's in person, it's hands on, right?
Mhm.
There's going to be opportunities, um, live instruments and software demonstrations. Like you can get so much more than like
Yeah.
seeing something online or a data sheet. So like, what do you tell people that they're going to be able to see and experience in the room that they can't get through a product sheet?
Yeah. A data sheet is nothing more than a piece of sheet that has a bunch of specifications on it, and that's all you get out of it, right? But it can't show you what a user experience actually is. And at a live demo, attendees can see how a workflow actually runs, how intuitive the software is, how quickly results can be generated, and how different pieces of the entire workflow all fit together. So customers can ask questions in real time and connect what they're seeing to the actual challenges they may be facing in their own labs. And over the years, I always push to get my customers down to one of our demo facilities to see our products in action. I think that helped get the point across. We have really, really smart people at Agilent, and they're also going in to be in attendance, showing how everything works. So it's that experience that I think the customers will gain or the attendees will gain by being there.
Yeah, that experiential
Mhm.
hands-on. I mean, you really can't beat that. So you're saying like customers can bring their problems and then bring their challenges to the showcase and talk to your
Yeah.
experts live. Is that what else what else should they bring with them on September 16th
Yeah.
to prepare for this summit?
Absolutely. Bring your toughest analytical challenge you have. Like I said before, we've got some really, really smart and great people at Agilent that will be at this event. So, whether it's a method transfer question, an automation question, modernizing some of your QC instrumentation, data management, new technologies, right? Like accurate mass or MAM. Those real world challenges lead to the best conversations. And this event is a great opportunity to speak directly with our experts, see solutions in action, and leave with ideas you can immediately implement your own organization. So, it's going to be a great event, and I look forward to seeing the local community with our teams interacting. So very excited about it.
Yeah, the local community element is something I also want to double tap on. Like, don't so much great ideas come when you bring other analytical colleagues together, or whether you're in formulation, analytical, QC, you come together for a day with just a bunch of people who are trying to solve similar problems.
Yeah.
That's where some really incredible things can come out of it. And especially if you're a small company, there's a lot of great incubators and accelerators in the greater Philadelphia area and beyond. I mean, this again is just a great opportunity for you that you can come out and see what is available, and maybe even recommend it to your incubator to pick up as another piece of equipment.
Exactly. I mean, if anything, get out and network, right? If you're having a problem, there's a very good chance somebody else at this event is also going to have the same problem. So, building upon your network, meeting new people, talking to Agilent experts, seeing what's what's new on the market, should be a really, really cool and fun event. I'm glad we're doing it. And, if all goes well, hopefully we can expand it to some other cities across the US. So very excited.
Well, we want you to stay in Philly as long as possible. So maybe, Philly it's right in the middle of the East Coast. So you've got all your territory covered.
Exactly.
But that's a good vision for the future for it. And, we're a community powered organization at BioBuzz, and we believe that, the best solutions to problems come when you bring people together.
Yeah.
And so it sounds like the September 16th is going to be a great day for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, thank you for your time today.
Yeah, thank you, Chris.
What was that, Eamon?
I was just to say we'll be there. We'll be ready to go, and happy to see everyone that comes out.
Yeah, it'll be a great day. So we're very proud to partner with you and partner with the whole Agilent team for this event, and just all year long to promote what you do and support your work and the impact you make in labs and facilities everywhere. So it doesn't end today. We're going to be promoting this conference, this symposium, for the next several weeks. And in fact, next week we have another Agilent guest on our podcast, Amir Liba, who
my
quite
boss.
well. Yeah, so
my boss. He's next.
So why should people tune in next week? I wanted to ask you that as a closer. But why should people tune in next week to hear from Amir?
Okay, so Amir's a great guy. Love working for him. He bleeds Agilent blue, and he has a ton of experience, not just in the pharmaceutical space, but he's a very talented application scientist when it comes to metals testing. So in the environmental space, the semiconductor space, him and I worked together when I was an account manager. He was an application scientist selling our atomic spectroscopy instrumentation, which may not really be a topic at the event in September, but he has a plethora of information, plethora of experience, and is very well respected in the industry. So you'll have a good time with Amir. Ask him all the tough questions. All right.
I saved all the tough questions for him. Yeah.
Okay. Great.
Hey, well, thank you for your time today. I'm excited for the 16th. Registration is limited and it's open today. So we'll put the link in the show notes here. And for all of you who subscribe to BioBuzz, you'll get it in your weekly newsletter as well. So we're excited for it. And again, excited to see you there in a couple weeks, Eamon. And again, thank you for being part of today's show.
Chris, thank you very much. Really appreciate it. And we'll see you soon.
All right, sounds good.
All right.
Thank you all for tuning in, and we'll see you next week for another Agilent oriented podcast about the Innovation Summit. Thank you.